Every month, the same thing. About a week before the cycle starts, first one, then another, chin, cheeks, temples, sometimes large, painful nodules that can neither be extracted nor concealed. You already know when to expect them, and knowing doesn't make it easier. Today, as a dermatologist, I'll explain exactly why skin breaks out with such predictable regularity during this specific period of the cycle, and why azelaic acid is one of the most precise and well-studied tools for working with this mechanism. Let me start with the experience that most women with this problem recognize. You've already learned your cycle, not by feelings, by your skin. Around day 20 or 22, the preparation begins. First, you feel a hardening under the skin, there, where it usually appears. Then it reddens and grows into a full breakout. By the time menstruation starts, the pimples are already there. During menstruation, slightly worse or unchanged. After it ends, they gradually clear. Until next time. There's an important detail in this pattern. Most women with premenstrual acne know exactly where the pimples will appear. Chin, lateral cheeks, temples, the very same zones. The localization reproduces itself from cycle to cycle because the density of sebaceous glands and the activity of 5-alpha reductase in different facial zones is unequal. This is what makes a preventive strategy even more precise. You can apply the active ingredient exactly in these zones without treating the whole face. You've tried different products. Something helps slightly during other periods of the cycle, but during these days almost nothing works. Because the source of inflammation is not outside, but inside. It's a hormonal signal the skin receives every month. And this is the fundamental difference between cyclical acne and regular pimples. Regular acne responds to skincare, proper cleansing, non-comedogenic cosmetics, acids. Cyclical acne responds weakly to these measures, precisely because its cause lies deeper, at the level of the hormonal cascade inside the skin. This is why a different approach is needed. There are several typical stories I hear in the office. First story, a woman, 25 years old, almost no teenage acne. But since 18 or 19, monthly before the cycle, several pimples on the chin and cheeks. A dermatologist said, hormonal. A gynecologist reviewed the tests, within normal range. And nobody explained what to do with the skin specifically. The woman has been living with this for 6 years. Second story, a woman 30 years old. Nothing like this until 30. After stopping contraceptives, regular breakouts before the cycle. The skin restructured, her own hormonal rhythm established, and it turned out to be exactly like this. Third story, a woman 35 years old. Acne was always present, but she noticed a clear cyclical pattern. There are weeks when everything is fine, and 1 or 2 weeks before menstruation when everything is bad. She used to think her skin was just bad. Now she understands this is a predictable process. What all these women share? First, understanding the pattern, that these are not random pimples but cyclical ones. Second, the absence of a strategy for working with this specific period. Third, the hope that if you understand the mechanism, you can find a truly working tool. The mechanism is exactly what we'll break down now. There's an important note to make right away. Cyclical acne is a normal biological reaction, amplified by individual skin sensitivity. This is absolutely not bad skin, and not the consequence of improper care. Understanding this changes the strategy. Instead of trying to heal the skin in general, working with a specific hormonal mechanism during a specific period. Now, the mechanisms. As a dermatologist, precise and to the point. Let me start with the basics. Premenstrual breakouts are not a malfunction and not a pathology. They are the skin's response to a normal hormonal cycle. But in some women, this response is excessive. The difference in the sensitivity of sebaceous glands to hormonal signals determines whether premenstrual pimples will appear or not. There's a good example illustrating this principle. Take 2 women with the same progesterone level in the luteal phase. One has moderate breakouts, the other has clear skin. The difference is not in hormones. It's in the activity of 5-alpha reductase in the sebaceous glands of the skin. This individual factor determines the predisposition to cyclical acne. First mechanism, the luteal phase and progesterone. After ovulation, Approximately from day 14 of the cycle, the luteal phase begins. The corpus luteum releases progesterone, a hormone preparing the uterus for possible pregnancy. Its concentration builds to approximately day 21 and starts declining if pregnancy hasn't occurred. Progesterone has androgen-like action. In particular, it stimulates the activity of the enzyme 5-alpha reductase in sebaceous glands. This enzyme converts testosterone into dihydrotestosterone, DHT. DHT is a significantly more potent stimulator of sebaceous glands than testosterone. The sebaceous glands begin actively producing more sebum, skin oil. There's a good analogy for understanding this mechanism. 5-alpha reductase is an amplifier. Progesterone turns this amplifier on. DHT is the amplified androgenic signal. Sebaceous glands hear this signal and work more intensively. It's precisely in women with high activity of this enzyme in the skin that a normal hormonal cycle creates an excessive sebaceous gland response. Simultaneously, elevated progesterone increases the keratinization of follicular epithelium at the openings. They narrow. More sebum with a narrowed duct, a direct path to blockage. This creates an anaerobic environment inside the follicle. There's another nuance about the luteal phase. During this time, skin visually appears denser and oilier, precisely because of the combination of increased sebum and changes in the stratum corneum. Pores seem larger. This is exactly why many women notice that skin worsens before menstruation, even if there are no inflammatory elements yet. Second mechanism: Cutibacterium acnes and inflammation. Cutibacterium acnes is a commensal bacterium that normally lives on the skin and in follicles. In aerobic conditions, it's completely harmless. In anaerobic conditions, it actively multiplies, breaks down lipids of sebum, releases fatty acids and pro-inflammatory cytokines. There's an important fact about C. acnes. Attempts to completely destroy this bacterium with antibiotics or antiseptics are not the best strategy. It is part of the normal skin microbiome. The proper task is not elimination but control of conditions, preventing blockages from forming that create the anaerobic environment for it. This is exactly what azelaic acid works on through inhibition of excessive sebum production. This is why a blocked follicle in the luteal phase is practically an ideal environment for inflammation. Progesterone creates the conditions. C. acnes triggers the inflammatory cascade. This combination creates the painful, inflamed elements that appear several days before menstruation. There's an important observation confirmed by many women. Premenstrual pimples are more painful and deeper than regular pimples at other times. This is because in the luteal phase, the level of pro-inflammatory prostaglandins in skin tissue is higher, the same ones that cause pain during menstruation. Inflammation in the skin during this period feels significantly more acute, precisely for this reason. Third mechanism: 5-alpha reductase and androgenic hypersensitivity. In women with pronounced premenstrual breakouts, the activity of 5-alpha reductase in sebaceous glands is above normal. This doesn't mean that hormone levels in the blood are pathological. Tests often come back normal. But at the tissue level, the glands respond to normal progesterone more intensively than in women without this problem. There's a clinical observation confirming the tissue character of hypersensitivity. In many women with cyclical acne, the activity of 5-alpha reductase is elevated, not in all areas of the skin, but precisely in the breakout zones: chin, cheeks, temples. This explains why pimples always appear in the same places, rather than uniformly across the face. This is why premenstrual pimples can occur with completely normal hormonal tests. The cause is not in hormone levels, but in receptor sensitivity and enzyme activity in the skin itself. And this is exactly the mechanism that azelaic acid works on. Fourth mechanism: the role of azelaic acid in this cascade. Azelaic acid inhibits 5-alpha reductase in sebaceous glands. Reducing the activity of this enzyme decreases the conversion of testosterone to DHT at the skin level. Less DHT, less stimulation of sebum production, less follicular blockage, fewer conditions for inflammation. This fundamentally distinguishes azelaic acid from most other acne products. Benzoyl peroxide kills bacteria. Salicylic acid mechanically clears pores. But neither of them affects the hormonal signal at the skin level. Only inhibitors of 5-alpha reductase work exactly where they need to work in cyclical acne. Additionally, azelaic acid has direct anti-inflammatory action. It reduces the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines and keratinocytes, plus direct antibacterial effect against C. acnes, disrupting bacterial protein synthesis. Thus, azelaic acid interrupts the premenstrual acne cascade at multiple points simultaneously, reduces androgenic stimulation at the enzyme level, suppresses inflammation, inhibits C. acnes multiplication in blocked follicles. This is why azelaic acid is one of the few topical products with proven effectiveness specifically for hormonal acne. Unlike benzoyl peroxide, which works primarily antibacterially, or salicylic acid, which primarily exfoliates, azelaic acid acts directly on the hormonal component of the cascade through inhibition of 5-alpha reductase. In clinical studies, azelaic acid at 20% concentration showed comparable effectiveness to clindamycin for moderate acne, without the risk of developing antibiotic resistance. This is important precisely for cyclical acne. Treatment goes on for months, and bacterial resistance is a real problem with prolonged antibiotic use. Fifth mechanism: post-acne spots and tyrosinase inhibition. Premenstrual pimples often leave post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation behind, brown or reddish spots. This is especially noticeable in women with dark or olive skin tone. Tyrosinase, the enzyme that catalyzes melanin synthesis, is activated by inflammation. Azelaic acid inhibits tyrosinase. This means that with regular use, it simultaneously both prevents new breakouts and lightens existing spots. This dual action makes it particularly valuable for cyclical acne, where new elements constantly appear, preventing spots from old ones from fully disappearing. Now about mistakes. The most common ones with premenstrual breakouts. Mistake 1. Starting treatment when pimples have already appeared. An inflamed element is the final stage of a cascade that began several days earlier. The blockage happened earlier. Attempting to treat an already inflamed pimple with aggressive products only traumatizes the skin. The correct strategy for cyclical acne is preventive. Start active use of acids approximately 7 to 10 days before the expected breakout, that is, immediately after ovulation. This is exactly the moment when the cascade can be interrupted before visible inflammation appears. Mistake 2. Using aggressive exfoliating acids in the luteal phase. Glycolic, lactic, mandelic acids in high concentrations are good exfoliating products. But in the luteal phase, the skin is more sensitive. Progesterone affects barrier function. Aggressive exfoliation during this period can provoke additional irritation and worsen inflammation. Azelaic acid works differently. It doesn't destroy the barrier but acts precisely on the follicle. There's a practical rule. If you use retinol or peeling acids, the luteal phase is the time to reduce their concentration and frequency. Azelaic acid, on the contrary, should be intensified during this period. This is the essence of the cyclical approach to skincare. Not one regimen all year, but adaptation to the cycle phase. Mistake 3. Squeezing premenstrual pimples. This is especially tempting because they're painful and noticeable. But precisely these breakouts, especially deep nodules, leave the most persistent scars when squeezed. Inflamed sebum under pressure spreads into surrounding tissue, expanding the zone of damage. This is why these pimples should not be squeezed, but waited out while working topically. There's a technique that helps not touch. Apply a cream with azelaic acid or allantoin pointwise on the inflamed element. This gives the feeling of active action. Psychologically, it's much easier to not touch a pimple when something is applied to it. This simple ritual reduces the temptation for mechanical action and simultaneously accelerates resolution. Mistake 4. Not synchronizing skincare with the cycle. Most women use the same skincare regimen year-round, regardless of the cycle phase. Yet skin changes along with hormones. In the first half of the cycle, it generally tolerates active procedures better. In the second, it's more reactive. Cyclical acne requires a cyclical approach. Preventive intensification of skincare in the luteal phase and gentle care during menstrual days. Mistake 5. Expecting immediate results. Azelaic acid is not a quick fix. Its effect is cumulative. 5-alpha reductase activity reduces gradually. The anti-inflammatory background normalizes over time. With regular use after 2 or 3 cycles, most women notice a reduction in the number of elements and their severity. Expecting a full result after 1 or 2 applications is unrealistic. There's a convenient way to track progress. Mark in the cycle tracker the number of inflamed elements on the peak day, usually approximately 2 days before menstruation begins. It is the comparison of this indicator from cycle to cycle that gives an objective and reliable picture of effectiveness. Reduction of even 1 or 2 elements per cycle is already a significant and palpable result. Mistake 6. Ignoring systemic factors. Skin reflects internal state. Chronic stress elevates cortisol, which in turn stimulates adrenal androgens. Sleep deprivation disrupts cortisol regulation. High glycemic diet intensifies insulin and IGF-1 release, which also stimulates sebaceous glands. Topical skincare works significantly better against a background of balanced lifestyle. Now, what really works for premenstrual breakouts? First, track the cycle and start active skincare preventively. A cycle tracking app, not only for planning but also for the skin. As soon as ovulation is passed, this is the signal to intensify skincare. Connect acid care, reduce aggressive procedures, increase hydration. This transition from the follicular phase to the luteal phase is the key entry point for a preventive strategy. Second, use azelaic acid regularly, not just when necessary. The effect of 5-alpha reductase inhibition accumulates with constant use. Applying once or twice a week during flare-ups is not the right strategy. Optimal scheme: daily or every other day, starting from mid-cycle until the end of menstruation. During the first half of the cycle, you can take a break or use it less frequently as maintenance care. Third, combine azelaic acid with light, non-comedogenic moisturizing products. In the luteal phase, skin loses some barrier functions. Without sufficient moisturization, the active ingredient can slightly dry the skin. A light gel or fluid without oils on top of the acid is a standard scheme. Hydration helps tolerate the acid without irritation. Fourth, reduce glycemic load in the luteal phase. High glycemic products, white sugar, fast carbohydrates, sweet drinks, provoke an insulin surge that intensifies androgenic stimulation of sebaceous glands. There are clinical data supporting this connection. In several studies, switching to a low glycemic diet over 12 weeks reliably reduced acne severity, including in women with a hormonal pattern. The mechanism: reduced insulin decreases IGF-1 levels, which reduces androgenic stimulation at the sebaceous gland level. This is not a replacement for topical care. It's an additional lever of influence on the same hormonal cascade. Fifth, work on post-acne spots systematically. Azelaic acid with regular use simultaneously prevents new elements and lightens old spots. But this process takes time, 3 to 6 months. Constancy is the only necessary condition for lightening post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. Sixth, for severe cyclical acne, consult a gynecologist endocrinologist. If premenstrual breakouts are pronounced, painful, numerous, this is reason to discuss hormonal background with a doctor. Oral contraceptives with an anti-androgenic component, spironolactone in low doses. There are systemic approaches to hormonal acne. Topical azelaic acid works well for moderate breakouts. With severe form, it's part of complex treatment, not an independent strategy. Now specifically, about APLB, azelaic acid peptide ampule serum, and why it's relevant for premenstrual breakouts. APLB azelaic acid peptide ampule serum, 40 milliliters. Azelaic acid combined with peptides in a lightweight ampule format. Key active: azelaic acid. Dicarboxylic acid working through 5-alpha reductase inhibition. Antibacterial action against C. acnes. Suppression of pro-inflammatory mediators. And tyrosinase inhibition. Why peptides in the formula? Peptides support barrier repair and have anti-inflammatory properties working alongside azelaic acid's effects, improving skin resilience during the inflammatory hormonal breakout cycle. This dual action, azelaic acid addressing the hormonal and bacterial side, peptides supporting barrier integrity, makes this serum particularly suitable for cyclical acne, where skin is repeatedly challenged each month. How to use in the context of the cycle. Apply after cleansing and watery layers, before moisturizer. Can be used twice daily. For cyclical hormonal acne, consistent daily use throughout the cycle, not just during the luteal phase, produces better results than reactive use. Because azelaic acid's keratolytic effect on follicles is preventive, reducing the comedonal blockages that would become inflamed breakouts. For those with cyclical acne, many dermatologists recommend increasing application frequency during the premenstrual week, from once to twice daily, to address the increased hormonal stimulus during the luteal phase. Expected timeline. Reduction in severity of premenstrual breakouts typically noticeable after 2 to 3 cycles of consistent daily use. Post-inflammatory pigmentation from existing marks, 8 to 12 weeks. Link to APLB azelaic acid peptide ampule serum on iHerb. https://www.iherb.com/PR/APLB-azelaic-acid-ampule-135-FL-OZ-4D-ML/150-111. In the description of this video, premenstrual pimples are a predictable hormonal cascade. Progesterone activates 5-alpha reductase, which converts testosterone to DHT. DHT stimulates sebaceous glands. Blockage creates an environment for C. acnes, and pimples appear. There's an important thought to take from this. Predictable is not bad. It means manageable. If you know when to expect breakouts, you know when to start preventive protection. Cyclical acne is perhaps the only type of acne where you have an exact calendar schedule of the attack. And this schedule transforms helplessness into strategy. 3 concrete practical steps. Cycle tracking. Knowing when to start preventive care. Azelaic acid. From the second half of the cycle, regularly, not only during flare-ups. Reduce sugar and stress in the luteal phase. Remove the additional androgenic load from inside. Cyclical acne is well suited to control. You just need the right strategy with the right timing, and patience for several cycles. The most important thing? Start. Not at the perfect moment, not when everything is perfectly set up, but right in this cycle. Download the tracker today. Start applying the serum from mid-next cycle. This is precisely the transition from helpless waiting to conscious management of your own skin condition. Cyclicity is not a sentence. It's a structure that can be used to your advantage.